Welcome back to This Is Now, Parenting Teens Today, the podcast where tackling parenting challenges that no one warned you about.
I'm Tiffany Dogie.
I'm Erik Chafin, I think.
Hi, Chafin.
Hey, how you doing? It's early, sorry.
We're tackling one of the hardest transitions in parenting, going from a full house to an empty nest. We spent years preparing our kids to move out, to be independent. We want them to be self-sufficient. We want them to make choices beyond us. But if we're going to be honest, when that moment finally comes and they pack their bags and they move out the door without you, it's pain. It's pain.
So how do you navigate this transition? I mean, it's healthy for both of us and the kids. So that's exactly where we're going to actually be diving in today.
First up, we have Romi Wallach, co-founder of The Daily Drip, who has lived through this transition and is here to share the real unfiltered truth, what worked, what didn't, and what she would do differently if she could go back.
Oh, what I could do differently. I don't live in regrets, so I don't know that I would live in differently. I will say there were a couple things that surprised me or that were challenging for me. And I think part of that was that because of my experience having lost my dad as early as I did, I spent my entire child rearing years very engaged. I thought I have 20, let's say I have 18. My dad died when I was 22. So I was going to say I have 22 years to do everything I can, have maximum impact because I may not make it past that. So I think when it came time for Jonah to leave, there was a lot of feelings around that for me. There was a lot of, first of all, personally, I couldn't believe that all of those years were now behind me. So I think I was dealing with my own personal, coming to terms with that. I wasn't raising my kids anymore. And I think because I was struggling with so many things, Jonah was also struggling. And actually, the irony of this conversation today and being with Dr. Brandy, or do we go by Dr. Brandy? We can go by Dr. Brandy. Well, to say this, we were at such a very pivotal point, Jonah and I, and we had an incredibly tight relationship, but he was struggling and it landed us with Brandy and at the time Dr. Ruby, and us working simultaneously to help him find his independence and prepare to go, and me figuring out how to navigate my role in all of this and the letting go.
Yeah.
I think one of the hardest challenges also is I think there's an element where we envision our kids' future.
Yeah.
They're born and it's I thought Jonah was going to we moved to the States. He's going to go to a college that has this rich sports environment because he's all about that. Right. And he was leaning towards going to a college in Canada that was just like a toilet in my estimation. And I was struggling with not allowing what I had envisioned to step on him making the choices and carving his own path. And that was really the challenge is I think as parents, because of our lived experiences, we bring that in.
Yes.
So it's I have the benefit of having lived all these years, so I know what's right for you, and I know what you should do, instead of recognizing, he was his own person, had to, whether it was a mistake or not, it didn't matter. This was his journey. This was what he had to do. So coming to terms with that, regardless of how I felt about it, and still being supportive, the bigger issue for me also was it was during COVID. So I couldn't even take my son to college. I couldn't move him into his dorm.
So hard.
I couldn't be a part of any of that experience.
Yeah.
And so that was a challenge. And he couldn't come home because of all of that. So it was complex, but I have to say that the work we did with Brandy and Dr. Ruby, because a big piece was me really digging deep and understanding, how do I navigate parenting an adult? And how do I be supportive and not put my own stuff on him? So for me, I think anyone that's kind of at this pivotal point, working with someone like Brandy is, I would work with Brandy, but someone like Brandy and doing it separate and together, so you and your child should both be looking at that, and working on yourselves was so instrumental and made Jonah and I closer than I ever could have imagined. And this was coming from people that were Jonah and I were already, according to them, too interconnected.
Oh, too interconnected.
Wait, that's a thing.
That's a thing,
It's not a thing.
Karen. It's a thing.
No.
And I felt threatened by that at first, but the work that we did just brought us closer together. It allowed me to take a step back and really learn how to support his decisions without putting my own personal, position, my own personal opinions around it. Like, I think it's critical.
Enter
hard.
Karen Ross. Because Karen
I don't know. I'm
is
hearing a lot
right-
of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road happening right now.
She's like right.
You know what I'm talking about.
She's right in the thick of this transition. Karen's a partner with Palermo, Landsman and Ross. So I am curious, Karen. You're living this in real time, and the countdown is on. What's been the hardest part of preparing for Peyton to leave? Like, what's the thought that keeps you up at night when you think about him walking out that door?
The thought.
The thought.
Like,
The
they're talking about
thought.
Choose one.
I mean, especially if you're an abnormally, and I say abnormally close family because today we are viewed as an abnormally close family, I would say. I'm very old school Italian mom. Sunday dinner is sacred to me. So I think the hardest part for me is I'm scared. I'm scared of the missing him. That's what I'm scared of. And it's so unique because at the beginning of his senior year, my favorite song and my song for him, I dedicated it to him this year, was Slow Up by Jacob Banks. And I listened to it every single morning.
Oh, that's a lot.
And I listen to it every single morning because it's my smell the roses, Karen. It's my do not let your job, do not let your extracurricular activities, do not let the intensity of the world just interfere with your peace of mind and your final year with him when he's home. Yeah. And I think like that word home is so pivotal and monumental this year, especially in that, am I scared? Yes. But if we did our job as a family, he knows he has a home. He's always going to want to come home.
Right.
But if I really did my job as a mom, he's home when he's not home because I'm inside of him, and I think like I know he's going to be okay, and that's what scares me because the missing him and knowing he's going to be fine. And a lot of you know Peyton, and he's independent and he's going to be great. But I don't want him to be great because I want him to need me. And I'm scared. I'm scared of the missing part and the yearning and the, he's decided to go a non-traditional route in, Naval Academy or West Point, and we're still waiting to hear back on that. But it's non-typical. It's not like sending your kid to college. It's a completely unique experience.
Yes.
And I'm just terrified of going 6 weeks and not him just being totally dark on me.
I've totally been there.
I'm terrified of that.
Yeah.
I think like just
13
to jump in because you said something really important.
It's 6, then you get one call, and then it's another 6.
Yes, it's 13.
Wow.
But it's also like you want them the coming to terms with the fact that they don't need you, which has become so much a part of your identity as a mom for so long. They need you differently. I think that's the pivot. They still need you, and that's why. And you're still parenting adults. That's why I'm saying there's like a shift in parenting an adult versus a child and what that looks
evolves. It definitely
100%.
evolves. So I'm hearing both of you, and check. None of you are wrong, but what I would say to that, and any parent that's either gone through it or is going through it, is parenting just evolves. Like they're still going to need you, just on a different level. They're still going to love you. They may not call you every day, or you might not be able to see them physically every single day, but just know that there's still going to be a level of need. It just evolves to a different type of need. You're moving from a caregiver to an advisor or a manager to a mentor, right? Like I did all of these things. I did soccer practice, ballet, all of the things, like personal Uber driver, and now they're gone. But they're not gone in the sense of they're never coming back. Your kids still need you. They still call you for advice, right? Yes, you see that face?
It's amazing too.
And I love it. I'm not even gonna lie about it.
They remember everything.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
They remember
they do.
every little
We
thing.
act like they're
That's
not
pretty cool.
listening, but they're listening.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. They totally do.
And they're watching.
Yeah,
I think
they're watching.
Like, it's not
100%.
just the listening.
Yeah.
I think it's the watching.
I think one of the parts that I recently wrote an article for the Daily Drip about this, and really I bared all in this. Some of you have read it, and one of the things I say in the article is that, it really wasn't my path. It's really me standing back and letting him lead and
Letting go of your expectations.
Yes, and letting them fail and being there to say, I'm here for you versus I told you so. You
Yes.
know, that
Yes.
was epic. That
Branding
was
was
epic.
a part
yeah.
of that with me
Yeah.
because I thought Jonah was. My anxiety was so off the chart
It
with
was.
this transition that I truly believed that if my son went to this particular school, that he was literally going to ruin his life. Like everything from this moment was going to be garbage. There wasn't even any point. That's it. Like he's just destroyed his life. It was such a process for me to like take him in and be like, "Are you insane?"
Well, thank God you didn't name the school.
Like,
let's not call out the school. Let's be
But
really
let's
careful.
be real
It
about
wasn't the
it.
school,
You know.
It was more the choice that I couldn't
Yes.
because I couldn't get past the fact that it wasn't the choice I wanted
That you
for
wanted
him.
yes.
for him.
Yes.
That I think it was the hardest part to do, but was the biggest growth for him.
Mm-hmm.
And regardless of how it turned out, it's all part of his journey. It's
Did he
his
go?
story.
Did he go to the school?
He did.
But I'd say that that's grief, right? Like it's
Yes, it
grieving
was a
the
grief.
loss of the life that I planned.
Yes.
And accepting what is. And knowing that I did a good enough job to get them to where they are. And he turned out amazing, can confirm.
Yeah.
Turned out
He did,
amazing.
he did.
He's a rock star kid. So is your other child. And you did the best that you could. But when has I told you so effectively worked?
Never. And
Never.
I never used it.
No.
I've
In
never
fact-
used it.
In fact, a
And-
year and a half
Wait,
in,
this is a
when
good
he wanted to
timeout.
come home, I was just like, excellent.
This is a good timeout because when has I Told You So ever worked? This is why we have created the download that's in your episode notes for those of you who are trying to find a balance between staying connected and giving them space because that's really a tightrope.
Could that have been available like 4 years ago when he was
It's
entering high
available
school?
now.
Like,
Go to the episode
It would
notes.
have been nice, right, Karen?
So we've got a download there for you, and it's going to help
it
you
was
keep
epic
the
reading
connection.
that. That was, even now, I'm like, oh man, I could definitely even use this now. That was very helpful.
Good. So download it, everybody. Download it. Go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, any resources are helpful, but that whole concept of because I told you so, that's not effective. That's not going to help. Collaboration and communication. I'll say communicate, collaborate, don't dictate.
Yeah. I found especially
great.
for Peyton because, you know, when I had laid out in my mind everything he was going to do. And when he came home that day and looked me in the eye and said, I'm applying to the Naval Academy in West Point, I felt like somebody
Sucker
knocked
punched
the
you.
wind out of me.
Yeah.
And I had to be like excited for him because let's face it, if I say Peyton don't go, he won't go. And what kind of mom would I be if I did that? But my
crushed.
point in it is that, you know, I had to be there to say, when you make mistakes, I'm here to support you and help you. I'm not here to point out your flaws and point out your mistakes. And the application process for those two academies is grueling. Not recommended. It is grueling. And it's hard, especially for a child to navigate. And there was so much growth that happened during that. And it was really, really important for me that I didn't make him feel like a failure, that I empowered him to make mistakes, learn, get right back up.
Right.
Get back on that saddle. You're a Ross. This is how we raised you. Get back on. Even though I wanted him secretly to fail every step of the way.
Right.
But I think that's also it. It's like, why is it like even that approach, right? Of like looking at their choice as a mistake. Like I think that was also like somewhat of an epiphany for me. Like just because I don't agree with it, I shouldn't be coming at him as if you're making a mistake.
Right.
It's a mistake in my mind because
Right.
of my history, because of my life, because of how
My
I
expectations.
planned for you. But it doesn't mean it's a mistake for him. And even with the way it turned out, it's still his journey. Like it's still his life to figure out. Like I moved to Florida. That was big in my house. My sister said she would not waste her vacation time coming to see me because of how hurt she was in this thing that I was doing.
wow, that's-
because it came on the heels of loss, you know, and whatever. But I say that to say that like my mom was so supportive and I kept jumping back to that. Like I knew that it was very hard for her to support me in that, but she was so good at doing it without making me feel bad about it. And that was also in my head when I was trying to like navigate the tough part of
Yeah.
watching him make this decision.
Because it was modeled for you.
Yeah.
So when you model that and you have that healthy communication, your kids pick up on that. We all just said that your kids watch and hear everything you do, whether it's good, bad, in between. So if you model that and you say, this is going to be really hard for me, you can have that honest conversation, right? Like, this is going to be so hard for me, but I love you. and I support you. And what can I do to help with this next transition? Even though you're biting your tongue because, no, I don't want you to go to this crazy college in Canada that will go unnamed, or this naval,
I should
academy.
caveat that it's actually one of the best schools in Canada. I mean, I don't know if we're using that as a bar, but it was the best.
gosh.
Not that the school you go to determines the type of human you become,
No,
because it really doesn't whatsoever.
Yeah, I've never
But
asked
it
that.
was what he wanted.
It was
Yeah.
what he wanted,
wanted.
and I think like that was a big piece. It was like, why I don't, and just like Peyton is with you, like Jonah and I have such a connection that I didn't want him going on this like next massive chapter feeling like he'd already disappointed me because he didn't choose what I chose for him. Like that's another layer of it. Like he shouldn't feel bad
Right.
for the fact that
Yeah.
he's now an adult,
Right.
making decisions
Making his own
for
choices.
himself, making his own choices. It's not for me to decide if it's right or
Exactly.
wrong.
What's amazing is in you actually empowering him to
Yes.
make
Yes.
decision-making power. It's pretty huge. I have a 20-year-old son, and that whole transition obviously was interesting, going from boy to man, and it's been an interesting past 6 months of going through that, and so it's.
I mean, we raise them to make choices, be independent, stand on their own
Yeah.
2 feet,
As
and
long
then
as they
pull
agree
the
with
rug
us.
out from underneath
Yeah, yeah.
them.
No,
Why
no,
would we
no.
do that? And
As long as they agree with us, they're
as
free to
long
have
as
their
they
own
do what I
opinions.
want. Yeah, I mean, if I look at just how Peyton has transitioned, I'm not going to say changed, I'm going to say transitioned, because he's affected every step of the way, and he's transforming into a man. He's only 17 years old. I'm looking at him like, you don't even know how to do your laundry properly,
Right.
but you are making life choices, and how is this all going to work? But I'm watching him transform, and it's like exponential growth.
Yes.
And I know he's going to be fine. But there's that, like, well, what if he makes a mistake and it messes up his whole life? What mistakes can they make at this
have to,
point?
though.
I have a list for that. There are a lot of
Level
mistakes
1
that
to
they can
10.
make. Yeah,
But they have to make mistakes.
They
have to.
Because, I mean, you'll hear that a lot too, right? That failure is a better teacher than success.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So if
Absolutely.
they don't make those mistakes, what do you think is going to happen? So you mentioned the laundry, and I had to chuckle to myself a little bit, because when people ask, depending on where they're at, in treatment, what can I do, or they need to do this, or be more independent, so start early, right? When I meet an 18-year-old that doesn't necessarily know how to do their laundry, I wipe my hand, my
So
sweaty
it's not
palms.
okay that I still do their laundry.
Oh dear God.
I haven't done. I have not done Peyton's laundry for 5 years.
Okay. Okay. So
good for you.
I'm
He's
gonna
ready.
go with you. I'm gonna go with
Nice.
your example, Karen. So, because here's the
Isn't
thing.
this a judgment-free zone?
I just don't want to do laundry anymore.
But the thing is, like, teach them early, right?
Yeah.
Teach them these skills now, as soon as possible.
Well, I want him to mess
they
up
can go.
now so that I'm
Sure.
still there to.
But
pick him
like we
up.
said earlier, you'll always be needed, just in a different way. So when people talk about, like, I want to be friends with my kids, and maybe you just
Oh,
do this, right?
no.
Like you have a
I can't.
20-year-old, right? And you have older children too. And, again, doing all the things, the friends part of it comes later.
Yes.
It doesn't come when they're trying to develop
Right.
their frontal lobe and the decision-making factor.
Right.
That starts after.
They are not your friend.
They're not
Say
your
it louder for the
friend.
people in the back.
Yes.
They are
Yes.
not
They're
your
not
friend.
You are not my friend.
until later.
I
So
can't stand that.
manager to mentor, that caregiver to advisor, teach them the skills,
Yes.
right? Basic laundry, cleaning a bathroom, because the amount of kids that I've had
Oh,
that go
that
to
was
college
interesting.
Yes.
that are sharing a room, and they get the parent gets the phone call, well, like, the bathroom, it's dirtier, or whatever the case is, and we're going back and forth. Teach them those basic things. That way, when
Yes.
they go off, it isn't another pressure or thing that they have to learn. They're there to focus on social skills and academics, right?
Yeah.
Like, they got other things to worry about. So if you teach them these things, they're going to be just fine. They're going to make mistakes, but later on, they'll come back and be like, oh, you wouldn't believe what happened today, Mom.
And like you guys are saying, it's an art, and it's a balance,
100%.
and basically accountability is huge, right? Whatever that may be in your world, but like with my 20-year-old, going through that process from 18, 19, and now where he's at, it's tremendous, because he's doing all the things, but of course everybody has hiccups, and then when you go through those hiccups, hey, you need to be open, have them, that openness for them to actually come to you
Right.
and talk to whatever that is. But hey, I'm still going to hold you accountable. You're
Right.
still going to have to make the decision. I'm not going to make it for you,
Right.
and have those difficult conversations.
I think
Yeah.
Brandy and I were talking right before the episode started, and I was saying if I were to give any advice to any parent going through this sort of thing, is that self-awareness is key. I think everything that my kids are today came as a result of the self-awareness and the work I did with you and Dr. Ruby and bringing the kids, because it taught me how to communicate with them about what I was going through and to be very honest. So when I was acting like a crazy person, or if my anxiety, no, but for real,
That's
like when
what it
my
looks like.
anxiety
That's what
got
it looks
really
like.
intense, I
Yeah.
would be able
Yeah.
to look at them and be like, this isn't about you. I'm struggling right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a really
Yep.
hard time dealing with this. And so I know I yelled at you for this, or I know that it seems
Mm-hmm.
whatever, but this is what I'm feeling. And so I'm sorry that this is coming out on you. Like being very clear also about like explaining what was about them and what wasn't about them, what my part in all of this was.
And owning it,
And
yeah.
owning it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ownership
Yeah.
and the apology. So
Yeah.
when
Oh.
someone asks, what is it that I can do to help repair this, or how can I have a better relationship? Well, do you know how to apologize? And then I get the looks, or well, apologize for what? Well, learn that you need to apologize to your kids the same respect that you want them to give you
Yeah.
and to others in the
100%.
world.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
have to give to them.
And I think that
Model.
teaches
Goes back to
them
modeling. It's
Correct.
Yeah.
modeling
Yeah.
a behavior
Right.
to say
100%.
like, I have to own my stuff.
Well, and it
Right.
teaches
Yeah.
them
No.
their
Good job,
own
good job.
forgiveness too. Something that I struggled with as an adult was, being so ashamed for mistakes I made and not being able to move on. So I always wanted my kids to feel okay with making a mistake and forgiving
Right.
themselves.
Right.
And I was able to model that for Peyton by saying, kid, I'm in this with you. We are in this together. You are not going through this. We are going through this as a family. I am right there with you. I am finding new identity just like you. I'm applying to schools just like you. I'm with this. I'm with you in this. And in saying to him, I make mistakes. I need help from Daddy. I need help from Uncle Artie. I need help from Tiffani. I go to people and my peers when I make a mistake and I ask them to help me, and that's okay. And it teaches them that you can be vulnerable and it's okay to make mistakes, and you have to forgive yourself when you make a
Yes,
mistake in
yes.
order to grow from it. If not, you're not going to grow. So they
You
have
also
to see it
taught
through
them to build
modeling.
community.
Yes.
You model
Yeah.
building community in that example as well. So they know that they can outreach to other folks too, and that they don't have to internalize this.
This is so good.
And
So-
even with
Feel
us,
alone.
when we were going through, like, what I'm so proud of is that even to this day, when my kids are struggling with something, and listen, we talk about everything, and as close as we are, there are things that your kids need to be able to express to an unbiased third party.
absolutely.
And my kids, because of the self-awareness and the willingness I had, and no pride in the sense that, like, I was willing to do whatever I needed at the end of the day. So if that meant working on me so that my kids could get better or feel better, everything, like, all bets were off. But as they felt like there were certain things that they were wrestling with that maybe they needed that person, like, they don't ask me anymore. They will book independently a session to say, like, they knew how to take the initiative, and
Yeah.
that there was no shame in asking for help from someone else.
Amazing.
And that to me was such a thing. Like, they would call me about something, and I'm like, maybe this is a Brandy question. And that's right. I just get the call when I have to pay. Did you ever?
That's really helpful. That's really helpful
But
for
it was
me.
important because
Yeah,
they
that's
saw
really
me
helpful.
doing the work, right?
Yeah.
Like, they knew that I was working on myself at the
Yeah.
same time, so that when I wasn't perfect or when I was tripping up, they knew I was just as much a work in progress as they were.
Yeah.
And to ask for help.
It's amazing with the kids, and then as you go through the stages of being, younger kids, and then now, I have 3. And then I always tell my wife, I said, it's interesting, when they hit about 9 or 10 or 11 or whatever that age is, all the things that you've kind of suppressed them or been hiding as your own things, they kind of come out and they're in front of you. So you have to deal with all these things.
Right.
And you have to be real, and you have to own it and understand it. And like you said, being self-aware
all your
with it.
quirks come
All
out.
this, because they call you out on it.
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
they
you better
do.
be ready to say, okay,
yeah.
you know what? Yeah, that is me. I'm going to have to do something about that, because you want them to do something about whatever they're doing, and then we're doing it together.
It's
But-
funny you say that, because I remember it was maybe 2 months before Christmas or a month before Christmas. We're at Sunday dinner. The whole family is there. And I say at the table, because we had like a ski trip planned for Christmas and then a spring break trip in Costa Rica planned and like all the things that we wouldn't typically do. We're usually RVers. But I had planned like all of these trips and all the stuff that we were going to do. So I said to the kids, especially Peyton, I said, you know, this Christmas, we're really not going to do a lot of the gift giving because we have all these trips planned. And Peyton smirks and he chuckles and he goes, yeah. Okay. And I realized in that moment, he totally had my number. Just what you're talking about, Erik. He knows me so well.
It's still
he knows
gonna
what
happen.
button to push. He put those buttons there.
Right.
He knows what buttons to push. He knows how to get a rise out of me. And he can play that card or he can suppress it, but he knows me just like I know him. So there's this battle, I think, with the two of us are like, who's going to win? Who's going to come out, you know, in the end of all of this? The bigger person, is it going to be Peyton or is it going to be Mommy? And I remembered in that moment, he knows me. And you go through that struggle, that tug of war big time where he's really pushing the envelope and it would transition from, Mommy, may I go to someone's house, this is the plan, and it transitions over to, Mommy, I'm going to so-and-so's house, and this
Are
is
you
how...
telling me or you're asking me?
And I do the face, I do the, And then I check myself and I go, so you're asking? And he's like, well, this is what I was planning. Are you okay with it? But he's got my number, and I
Diplomacy.
figured it out at that dinner that he knows. He knows exactly how
And
to
you
get
see
it.
Let's
how
switch gears. I'm going to switch
Yeah,
gears
let's
on
go.
your story.
Yeah, go.
Because I get this question a lot. For parents who, I'm going to direct it to you, Dr. Brandy. Drink your beverage. So, how much when my kid leaves, this is typically the question. When my kid leaves my home, how much communication is too much? Should I expect daily communication? Should I check in, once a week? Like, what's
Are
normal?
hourly text messages not okay?
I'm going to go. She doesn't even have to answer.
And is Life
No.
360, is it go away?
No.
Oh yes, it's like.
Look at everybody, no.
Clearly, I need medical attention in this area.
I feel like Life 360 you can still have. It's a safety issue.
But we never had it as kids, so I'm just saying we were
Right.
fine growing up. So
It's a different time now.
It is a different
Sorry.
time. So to answer that question, let them set the pace.
Oh.
Right? So
Mic
there's
drop.
nothing wrong with Life 360 because, for safety purposes in today's world. But I will tell you, do not, under any circumstance, call them at a certain time that you know that they're at a place that they don't usually go and say, hey, so-and-so, what you doing? What are you up to? Where you at?
what's up?
are you on beer 2 or 3?
Because it's pretty apparent that
You're stalking.
That's it.
you're being a
But
little
I gotta
Basically,
tell you, my
secretly
kids use it more
stalk,
against
secretly
me that
stalk.
I hardly ever check it. I get the calls. You went here without me?
Yeah.
You went to eat this without me?
Mommy,
Oh,
you're
it's re-
you're at Panera?
reverse
You didn't take me to
stalking.
Panera?
Right. So isn't that interesting how
Yeah.
it flips in that way? Because they don't feel like they're being stalked.
And God
Well-
forbid you turn off location. Then they're like, wait a minute, where's mom? Where's dad?
Well,
just
then
saying,
that's,
yeah.
that becomes problematic.
That's another
let
episode.
I'm so
them,
glad we don't have Life 360.
let them set the pace, though. It doesn't need to be every day. I really loved when you pointed out, you said you're an old school Italian mom and you have weekly Sunday dinners. So that's where I go with this. If you're fortunate enough to have your kids live near you, then keep those Sunday dinners. If not, what I tell the parents that have kids that go away is have a weekly FaceTime date. Have something that you start early and that you stay consistent with. So it just smoothly transitions into their young adulthood. So you start at one point where it's like, okay, we watch this show, or we, have this weekly FaceTime, or we do something together, and it just smoothly transitions into adulthood. And it's almost like, Abby calls you up and says, hey, Mom, I'll talk to you on Sunday about this, but don't let me forget to mention blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, I won't, obviously. So just
Oh, it's
having
in my
a
calendar.
natural progression right, it already is in your calendar. But just having that
notification.
natural progression, let them set that tone. But every day, no.
Unless
And
every
she goes right by me when she says that because she knows she's talking to me. You know what my fear is,
They're gonna get
Dr.
a
Brandy?
hard
My
stop.
fear tremendously is, especially if he goes into the Naval Academy or West Point, is that, he will go through 6 weeks, no communication. They're not even allowed to have their phone. And then they're allowed to make 1 2-minute call, and then they go through another 6 weeks. So my fear is that he's going to adjust to that schedule, and then calling home may be more painful for him because he's adjusted to not calling home at a regular basis. So
I can respond to that.
I
because
would
I've been
love to
there.
hear a response
It's a
to that.
It's a totally different podcast because what the college parents go through is completely different from what the military parents go through. We have a hard stop. When they leave your home as a boy, and they come back as a grown man. And I think I shared this with you. The first time that he came home on leave, we were going to the movies, and it's totally habit. We're walking out the front door, and I go, "Did you brush your teeth?" Yeah. Did you brush your teeth?
Silence.
And it was just
The
this
table
awkward,
goes
like,
silent.
I think.
but yeah, so we don't get the same transition time
Yeah.
that other parents get because your child is still very much a child as they're in that college experience. And then, but ours is not.
They're forced
I
to
will
grow
say
up
that is an
faster.
unfounded fear. They do not get used to not communicating with you. In fact, while they're away, all they want is to check in with you. They're going through
I'm going to
so
back
much.
and support that. I'd
That's
love
really
to
helpful.
come back in a few months or whenever this is done to test.
Oh, I'm
that,
booking a session before we leave here.
to test.
Hello?
that
You
will not be
same
sorry.
theory.
Yeah.
Because I do not believe that will be the case. I believe that you guys will find a pace that works
Yes.
for you. It's going to be really hard, and that 2-minute phone call, you're probably going to hang up in tears and feel distraught.
And call Tiffany?
And call Tiffany.
so
My
Or your
lifeline for
community.
2025.
You call your community and you just talk about what that's like. And then when he comes home, you guys find your rhythm. Just like when, military people get deployed and they come back and they have to readjust to the life that, has already been going on while they've been away. So you guys will just find what works. And then you'll amend it the way that you need to, but I do not believe under any circumstance is your child going to come back and get used to not talking to you. Like we said at the start, you are still going to be needed. You will always be
Yes.
a parent. It's just going to be in a different capacity, and it just evolves. And I would arguably say that it evolves into something even better. Like it's not going to be this, did you brush your teeth? Did you remember to do your homework?
No.
Instead, it'll be, did you see what happened on that show?
Yes.
Like, that was wild
Yes.
to me. And it'll just organically
You're having
Yes.
flow
like
and
real
it'll be so
Yes.
conversations.
Then they become your friend.
Your friend.
Right.
Like
Then
I
there's
could
a
listen
shift.
to I could
Natural
listen to my
progression.
kids talk all day. Like we have like now it is such a difference. Like just the conversations, the time we spend together, the things we do. Like as challenging as it is very special to kind of enter this new phase, And honestly, for what it's worth, like I don't think they ever really like leave. At least, well, mine don't. But my husband
Yet.
keeps saying like, you should just stay with us forever. I'm like, so that's an epic fail.
Yeah, absolutely. It is.
Yes.
As a
Absolutely.
parent,
Yes.
Yeah, it is
I
a
love
fail.
the sentiment.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is a
But
fail.
no.
Yes.
I'm like, there is a
No.
cutoff.
Good.
But even for me right now, like, Jonah graduated in December and he's living with us right now and looking for a job and whatever. But even within the house, giving him the space and the independence, right? Like he is a 23-year-old man. Like I do not go up and, I try not to say anything about like the mess or like I want him
We're
to
bringing you
feel
back for Bro,
somewhat-
You're Not My Roommate in like 6 weeks. That's coming up. Bro, You're Not My Roommate.
I'm trying to
Or
give
bruh.
that level of
Bruh.
independence
It's
'cause I'm
bruh.
like, I can
Bruh, depending
feel-
where you're at, right?
Yeah.
I can feel the mess from downstairs.
This conversation was so great. Thank you guys so much for coming. Dr. Brandy from Changing Tides Therapy. We never actually said who you were, but thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your hearts, and thank you for helping us launch this new podcast.
I could have
And-
really helped. This could have really helped me as a parent had I had it, 4 years ago.
Well, it's not too late. You can still download it, Karen. It's still take it and to give it to all your parents that really could use the
true.
value
Share it
of this.
with everyone.
Share it with everybody. And again, thank you guys for coming out and joining us for This Is Now Parenting Teens Today. We'll see you next time.
Subscribe.